It was all going so well in Bahrain for Oscar Piastri, but the wheels did fall off, metaphorically at least. Fortunately for him, it's only a few days between that race and today's race in Saudi Arabia. So hopefully we've been able to pick him up in the days in between. We can get him back on the podium. Hello folks, welcome to episode 79 of This Career with Mercedes. We're gearing up for a sprint weekend in Jeddah, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and we're still in a little bit of despair over what could have been for Oscar Piastri, the young Australian, 25 years old, so in a good position for that first win in this universe, at least, and at the time of recording, he hasn't actually won a race, a Grand Prix at least, in Formula One. He did win the sprint in 2023. Fortunately, his morale is still high, but we need to make sure we iron out those errors and inconsistencies. I'm just looking at his stats here. His smoothness is 78. He's got 86 control, so really he should have not been making that sort of mistake, but I suppose it can happen to the best of them. Braking only 84. What are we training him on? Pace, long runs, because we want to improve that smoothness. So there's not really been much to tell you about other than we've had some facility upgrades be completed. The design centre, factory and wind tunnel have all been refurbished, and we're just continuing to research away, ready for the next season, season 5. I haven't fully decided what to do for season 5. I have got stuff up my sleeve if we continue with Mercedes, but we could always move away from Mercedes. I'll put a poll out on the community page, so go and vote as to what you think we should do at the end of season 4. There are 6 races left now, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 races left. There'll be 6 after today, so we do need to start planning for season 5 of this career. If it does continue, great. If it doesn't and we switch to something else, that's fine as well. We could turn it into a road to glory. There's lots of options. I'll put them in the community page. Go and share your thoughts there. So I'm going to dive into practice, the one and only practice session before qualifying, because it is a sprint weekend, and I'm going to get the cars as well set up as possible, and then we'll see what happens in qualifying. Then we'll do a sprint in Jeddah, which I'm sure is going to be very boring, because it's probably the only thing that can happen. I'll see you in qualifying. We've made it into Q3 then, and we're a little bit off the pace of the Red Bulls, but they both are taking grid drops today. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out in the sprint, if they can make progress. But let's deal with qualifying first. George Russell getting a toe off of Oscar Piastri, sets the fastest first sector at 32.1, 3/10 faster than his teammate. We're out on used tyres for this first run, and there's an awful lot of traffic that's getting in our way here. That's a Red Bull getting out of our way, but someone has done a faster first sector than George. It's Pierre Gasly. Let's see then. Piastri is going to be much slower than George on this first run. 8, nearly 9/10. So George was actually probably significantly held up there. We do have a new tyre run to come, so let's see what happens there. Leclerc not able to beat George Russell. He's on massively used tyres though, so that would explain it. I would expect Max Verstappen to be going quite quickly. He hasn't done any sectors yet, as Gasly goes to the top of the times and Norris is looking fast. Let's see how things shake out ahead of our final run. Alright, so I waited and waited, and we're following Max Verstappen on fresh tyres. Charles Leclerc has just gone to the top of the times ahead of his teammate, but that could all be about to change. Oliver Behrman has gone 5th fastest ahead of George Russell. Piastri only 8th at the moment, ahead of Drogovic and Maloney. Let's see what the sector times say then. Verstappen, the fastest man in sector 1. He looks like he's actually getting away from us a bit here, but this is where the slipstream effect will really come into play down the back section of the circuit. Yes, there's corners apparently, but has George has just got out of Piastri's way. He's just got out of this flying lap Verstappen goes fastest. Russell doesn't improve. Piastri's only 7th. What on earth happened there? Russell just aborted his lap. I am so bemused. And that was not how I expect. Lando Norris has just taken pole position. That is incredible. I did not expect that. Not from Norris and not from us. We've been beaten by a Haas. That is not good at all. But fortunately there's a sprint race to come which sets the grid so we can kind of repair the damage. We're ready to sprint then, and this probably doesn't help for George Russell. A 34% setup confidence. It was 18% after practice. We did improve it ahead of Q1 to 26%, I think. And ahead of Q2 we made some tweaks with the front wing and we made a little bit of a difference, but yeah, it's still not very good. That said, it's a fairly straightforward strategy for the sprint, so without further ado, let's go to the sprint. Okay, for the first of 2 times this weekend, we have got 5 red lights. The lights are out, the race is on, the sprint is taking place in the daytimes in Jeddah, and Ferrari and Red Bull are squabbling off the front row. George Russell looks like he's making a move on Oliver Behrman, but the young Brit is resisting, it would seem, but not for much longer. We're side by side through the S's. This is probably not advisable, but we are up into P5 with George, and that is a good start. I did say that the Red Bull drivers had grid drops, and of course that doesn't come into play until the Grand Prix, so we will see them drop back after they've qualified in the sprint. Lando Norris still leads though, and we are going to get some DRS in the not too distant future. Right, end of lap 3 of this sprint, and I think we just have to admit we're not very fast. Oscar Piastri is making an overtake on his teammate here. Please don't collide, lads. That would really not be okay this weekend. We are pushing on the tyres, but they're getting too hot. What's everyone else on? They're all on soft. Maloney's on mediums. That might have been the play, because they'll be a bit more resistant to the heat. I didn't expect the race to be in the day, but the AI is chomping through its tyres as well. Maybe this will come back to us. Maybe they're pushing too hard too early. If we keep hold of some tyre for the end, this might be a little bit like the sprint in Qatar in Season 1, where the AI uses its tyre too hard and then suffers punctures towards the end. But our drivers fighting, probably not ideal. So I'm going to ask George not to fight his teammate, and we'll see where we come out from there. I actually changed my mind in allowing George through, but it's kind of had an unintended consequence in that Yuki Tsunoda is now passing us. We're back to 6th and 7th, and there was a little bit of contact there. Piastri and George have made contact at the hairpin. This was not in the script. Piastri up the inside, not really any space to go there. Ooh, the merest of touches. I don't think Piastri's going to lose out to the Haas, but we are squabbling with the top of the midfield. We're nowhere. Weirdly, George Russell's got no confidence. This is probably all down to the setup, but also the contact with Piastri might have knocked his confidence. But that's not ideal. That means he'll be driving worse, and we just need to do some personal best sectors to boost that confidence, get some confidence back into him. But we just don't have the pace at the moment. It's a bit of a throwback to Season 1 where we could find ourselves fighting nobody. Alright, we're starting the final lap, and George Russell's under pressure from the 2 Haas cars of Zane Maloney and Oliver Behrman. This has been a sprint race to forget for both our drivers. For the team, it's just a mess. This is the problem with sprint races, having one practice session and then the locking in of the setup, is if you get it wrong, you are completely stuffed for the entire weekend. So George is stuck with this 34% setup for the entire Grand Prix. We couldn't catch Tsunoda because we had to save some fuel. We're still trying to save fuel with Piastri. I don't think he's going to get to the flag. Yeah, he's not going to get to the flag. George will just about. Lando Norris has won the sprint. Oscar Piastri has run out of fuel. And George Russell finishes P6. And there's Piastri, who's going to be last. The less said about this, the better. All ready to go with the strategy. It's a two-stop because we want to be bold. We want to be aggressive and make sure we're basically attacking at all times to maximise our pace. Piastri, we're going to box him early. We're doing the same thing with both drivers. We're going to stop earlier than everybody else, get an undercut, go hard, and then if there's a safety car or something or a red flag, hopefully that plays into our hands. But we've got extra sets of soft tyres to use, so 2 brand new sets. We might as well use them. Be on the fastest set of tyres that we can be at all times. The hards are there if we need them. So let's do a motor race and try and rescue something from this weekend. We are starting 4th and 19th. Let's go. So for the second time this weekend, we wait for 5 red lights. There are 2 red cars at the front. The lights are out, the race is on. George Russell, starting from P4, has made a good launch. But look at Tsunoda roaring into second place. Oh my good gosh. I thought Gasly was about to absolutely dead Tsunoda. But they've survived and they're through turn 1. Piastri is up a position. Where are the Red Bulls? They are 10th and 11th. So they'll probably be becoming pretty hard in a few laps and making our life very difficult. But hopefully there's some cars in between us that can slow them down. But look at Yuki Tsunoda in an AlphaTauri in second. We've got a very early virtual safety car here. Who has crashed? I think it's Ollie Behrman who's tumbling down the order. There he is. And he's out. He's crashed. This is just what Haas drivers do in Jeddah, apparently. They have accidents. And there goes the young Brit, smashing into the wall, almost collected by another car. He'll be okay. The car's not. But it's given us an opportunity here to just cool the tyres down a bit. They were just getting so hot. We're trying to cool them down, but we just couldn't do it without sacrificing pace. Interestingly, I think all the AI have started on used softs because their tyre wear is worse than ours as Tsunoda takes P2. We are closing in on them, I think. Yeah, we're only a second back. So we're not far away from getting some DRS. Oscar Piastri has been getting DRS, is getting DRS. And is he going to go around the outside of this Alpine? Not quite, because we were basically out of battery. I think the problem that's holding us back at the moment, one of the problems, there's several problems that's holding us back at the moment. Not being held back, though, is Oscar Piastri. He's overtaking people left, right and centre, it would seem. But George, these tyres are just so hot. He's not able to really make progress in terms of catching anybody else. So what I'm thinking is we box him earlier than we were planning to, put him on the mediums and see how he goes on them, because we need that pace from pushing, but these tyres are just getting too hot and we're not able to sustain it. So maybe switching our strategy up a little bit, going soft, medium, medium might be the play here. Let's bring him in around lap 12 and then we'll see where we fall from there. Right, we're starting lap 12 and we are overtaking Yuki Tsunoda for third place. At least I hope we are. And we are indeed. There we go. George Russell moves into P3. But the tyres are still starting to overheat. Oscar Piastri will be... Should we do the same with him? Do you know what? Let's bring Oscar in now for a set of mediums. He's actually got 3 sets of brand new mediums to use. So we'll put him onto a set of mediums now, and then we can really blitz it and see how this works out, because this might... I don't know if the AI is coded to respond to us at all. Look at Lando Norris babysitting those tyres like an absolute genius. That's incredible. And the Red Bulls are now 5th and 6th. They've started on mediums, which is interesting. So they're going a little bit deeper into this race. So we might be able to potentially catch up with them later on. Oscar into the pit lane. We need a good stop here, please, everybody. 2.6, not too bad. He'll come out last, but now we can... there's no like hammer time word for Oscar, but it is hammer time. George Russell coming in as well. Let's see how far down the order he drops. 2.8, almost 2.9 second pit stop. I would assume he comes out in the last. Oh no, there's a nice gap here actually ahead of Sainz that he's going to pop into, which is very useful. I like that. Let's actually deploy because we want to go fast for now. We can save the fuel later as well. That's fine. Hopefully we'll get another VSC or a safety car, which would be great. So now is our chance to try and undercut those that we were behind, or at least close the gap on the Ferraris, who might have this race sort of sewn up. We're getting the message that our tyres are too hot with George Russell, but that's because he's in a load of traffic, busy doing a lot of overtaking. He's now up to P12, and he's about to go past an Alpine of Liam Lawson as Piastri moves out of last place ahead of Esteban Ocon's McLaren. We need to be driving in clean air with both drivers. We are. Oscar's at peak confidence. This is useful for us because it gets the drivers' confidence levels up. All this overtaking, which is very useful. I think, will we go past the Williams here? No. George deciding he doesn't want to pass Fred Vesti on the pit straight, but would rather do it into this corner here, which, I mean, you could have done it on the pit straight, lad. Anyway, that's a bold overtake, and that's P10, I suppose. That'll do. Race leader Lando Norris is into the pit lane for a set of medium tyres. It looks like he might be doing maybe a two-stop. Surely he's not going to get the mediums to the end from there, but he's come out in P4. We're now 7th with George Russell, having overtaken Logan Sargent, and some other drivers going into the pit lane. Oscar moving up the order too. So this strategy might begin to come together for us, which I really hope it does. Lap 27, I thought we'd just have a bit of a catch our breath moment, assess where we are. We're 5th and 8th, which with Oscar, this is working out fantastically because he's just constantly pushing. He'll probably need to come into the pit lane soon, but we're going to put on another set of mediums anyway, and we're going to do the same with George Russell. We are kind of around the same pace as everybody else. Gasly's just on a 32.4 ahead of us, and we were half a second quicker than the Gaz man last time round with George Russell, so that gap is now less than 6 seconds. Obviously we're committing to another stop. Red Bull certainly aren't, and Ferrari probably aren't either, because it looks like they're looking after the tyres. If there's a safety car in the next 5 or 6 laps, we're in business. Because either everyone stays out and tries to go to the end, or they all come in and we're all bunched together and we can just go for it from there. As Leclerc does pit, he'll be coming in for a set of softs. There you go. Is he going to make it out ahead of us? Probably. So I think we've been overcut by the Red Bulls because we got stuck in... We put ourselves in all that traffic. We do have a virtual safety car. Drugovic looks like is out of the race. I think we've just missed the pit entry with our drivers. Drugovic crashing at the end of the lap. So we're going to go now for the mediums on both cars. And this will certainly give us an opportunity. Verstappen had just pitted and come out behind us. There was a couple of misclicks that meant we probably couldn't get in time because I clicked the speed button, which is behind my head, and it went to time 16. So George Russell, I think, is just going to make it out in P6. He is indeed. That's worked out beautifully. Oscar Piastri making his stop now. 2.4 seconds. Lovely. But I think he's going to be just behind Fred Vesti. Or is he? Or is he? It's crucial that he's not. And he's not. That is fabulous. He's got almost 10 seconds to catch Liam Lawson. But we're on new tyres. And the virtual safety car is ending. This is so well timed. So well timed. So now we can push and deploy. We'll get the tyres up to temperature. This could completely resurrect our race. It's taken us a few laps. There are now 15 laps to go, but we are on the tail of Yuki Tsunoda. And he's only 7 seconds behind Max Verstappen. So we could snipe off a Red Bull in this race if things work out for us. Let's deploy some energy. We are driving in clean air, and hopefully George has enough to get past the AlphaTauri. There he goes, up the inside. All good stuff. And now we need to pull away. Piastri is closing in on Maloney now. Lawson had got himself up into P7. So there's positions for him to have, but I don't think Piastri is actually going to catch Tsunoda unless the Japanese driver sees his tyres completely fall apart, which is definitely possible. The tyres are getting very hot in this race and you have to look after them. We're not looking after them because we've committed to a two-stopper. Might just be 5th and 7th. We'll see. It could be 4th and 7th if George gets a hurry on. Oscar Piastri is up to P8. He just passed Alex Albon and now he's dived down the inside of Zane Maloney. Lovely move on the sole remaining Haas in this Grand Prix. And that's Oscar Piastri up to P8. And P7 now for Oscar Piastri. He passes Liam Lawson, who of course he started on the front row with in Azerbaijan. And that's a nice clean overtake into turn 1 here in Jeddah. Of course, another street circuit. At the front, Charles Leclerc is closing down the gap to Lando Norris. Not by much, but he should still catch him towards the end of this race. And there you go, you can see the pair almost absolutely together as Lando starts lap 42. He was leading so much of the Italian Grand Prix only for a Red Bull to swoop in on the last lap and steal the victory away. Is that history about to repeat itself? We might yet grab P4 from this race. George Russell is 1.6 seconds behind Pierre Gasly with 4 laps to go. We're on lap 46 and we could certainly steal another couple of points. We'd only get 12 points versus 10 for 4th place. But every point counts, and with Verstappen finishing in 3rd, it would look like, that would minimise the damage he does to George's championship lead. Let's harvest some more energy so we can go on a deploy lap in a minute. It's now 1.9 seconds. At the front though, it looks like Lando Norris is doing enough right now. Leclerc's tyres have gone past 50%, which is when you lose basically any real performance from them. And the gap has grown to 4 seconds. George, on the other hand, is pushing and is starting to re-close that gap. Gasly's only got 39% left of his tyres. That's not going to help him if it comes down to a last lap shootout. We have got ourselves some DRS just in time for the final lap of the race. So I'm going to put Harvest on for George Russell so that he's got plenty of battery to attack the second half of this lap against Pierre Gasly and grab that P4. Lando Norris is in the lead as he completes the first sector of the final lap. George Russell, deploy all the battery, use all the tyres, go for it. Just don't crash, obviously. We need to get within a second, which we are. We will get DRS. Oscar needs to conserve fuel. I almost did it again. We'll save. Well, we should save that on the last lap, I hope. Here's George. Half a second in it. We need to keep an eye on where Lando Norris is. I think he's coming out of the final corner now. Here he is. Lando Norris. Finally, Lando's a race winner. I'm so happy for Virtual Lando. He's won a race. Unbelievable. Here's George Russell round the outside. Oh, that's beautiful from George Russell. And P4. Never has P4 felt so good for Mercedes. That was excellently done by George Russell. We have saved enough fuel with Oscar. He's not actually under any threat from behind, so we can just continue to conserve. But Gasly, having started on the front row to finish 5th, he'll be very disappointed with that. Red Bull's strategy got them from the middle of the pack to the podium. Unfortunately, because neither of our drivers are on the podium, we don't get to see the podium ceremony with Lando Norris on the top step. But I assure you, he's there. And he's doing his signature champagne spray. Why is Piastri celebrating P7? Like he's just won the race. Oh no, we do get to see Lando. Yay! Woo! Lando! It's finally here. Lando gets to be the winner. The bridesmaid has become the bride. And there we go. Spray it like you mean it, Lando. Hopefully the first of many. Definitely the first of many if he's in a team that we're in charge of. But let's see what this does for the World Championship picture. Good job from Oscar Piastri, up 12 positions. Max Verstappen is 63 points behind George Russell now. And Lando moves into P2 with that race win. He's now level on race wins with Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly 5th, Oscar Piastri still 6th. But George still topping the championship. We've lost a lot of ground to Red Bull this weekend. That is very concerning indeed. But I hope we've got some tracks coming up that we're going to be strong at. We've got Yas Marina next, and then it's off to the Americas. So there's still plenty to play for. We can definitely overturn this 31-point deficit. All it takes is a double Red Bull DNF and a 1-2 for Mercedes. Job done. But anyway, there's still 2 more sprints left as well, I think. So there's plenty of points to play for. We need to make sure we get our setups right, though, for those weekends. But 4th and 7th, not great, not terrible. It'll do. If you enjoyed that sprint weekend in Jeddah, make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on the video for me. Subscribe down below too. And while you're there, join the Discord where you can put your F123 profile ID and join in the sprint series that we are going to be doing every so often on the channel. We did our first one on Friday. Go back and check out the live stream there. And make sure you put your ID in there so I can include you in the next one. For now though, I'll see you next time. You're the best fans. Bye for now.